So the question is, what dream would you pursue if you knew for a fact that you had absolutely nothing to lose? What audacious thing would you attempt if you knew by not attempting it, you would literally die? That's where I was in January of 1984. I'm married, I'm miserable. I'm selling insurance, I'm miserable. I'm not pursuing the career that I thought I was born to, comedy, and miserable. People all the time ask me, were you born funny? Yes, as a matter of fact, an amusing thing happened on the way down the birth canal. That is the career I believe I was born to, and I was not pursuing it, and I was depressed, and I was having thoughts of suicide. Because depression and suicide run in my family. You may not have heard of this. It's called generational depression and suicide. Let's see. My grandmother, let me step to the side. My grandmother Dixie, that's my mother Dixie in her lap, died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt, who's sitting next to the gentleman with the white beard, died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. And I myself have come awfully close to dying by suicide. This is the face that I show the world every day. I get out of bed, I paste on that smile, I put one foot in front of the other, walk through the world as if nothing is wrong, until it's time, an acceptable time, to go back to bed and pull the covers over my head. The reasons for that, I have two mental illnesses. One is called major depressive disorder. It's more commonly known as depression. And I have a less common mental illness called chronic suicidality. Now, you may not have heard of that. What that means is, for people like me and my tribe, the option of suicide is always on the menu for problems large and small. A couple of years ago, I had one of my cars break down. I had 3 thoughts unbidden. 1, get it fixed. 2, I could buy a new one. 3, I could just kill myself. Yeah, I know it sounds odd, absurd to normal people, but there may be a couple of people here who are thinking, oh dear God, I have thoughts like that all the time. I didn't know there's a name for it. I say that because every time I've given a keynote where I tell that story, somebody, at least one somebody, oftentimes more, come up afterwards and share that they have been having those thoughts their entire life. I did a college show, a young woman came up. She said, I wanted to thank you for your keynote. I said, you're welcome. She goes, but I got to tell you, it made me weep. I said, how did it make you weep? She goes, well, when you said your car broke down and you had 3 thoughts. Get it fixed. Number 2, buy a new one. Number 3, or you could just kill yourself. She goes, I've been having those thoughts my entire life. I thought it was just me. I thought I was some kind of freak. And when I heard you say that out loud, I realized for the first time in my life that I am not alone. That's why I do what I do. So let's review. Married, miserable, and by the way, it's not my first wife's fault. She's a wonderful young woman. We were high school sweethearts, college sweethearts. We got married. We realized a little bit too late we had nothing in common. But you know what they say, I'm sure you've heard this, opposites attract. Yep, she was pregnant, I wasn't. So, no. I'm making that up. We didn't have any kids, and that was a blessing, considering the way it all ended. So I'm married and miserable, selling insurance, great business, but not for me, miserable. Not doing what I believed I should be doing, because that was really not my wife's idea of what I should be doing, going to the comedy store and amateur nights and pursuing a career in stand-up comedy. I'm depressed, I'm suicidal, and I came to a point where I realized, if I don't change my mind, I'm going to lose my life. If I stay where I am, sooner rather than later, I'm going to kill myself. The second thought was empowering, because I realized, wait a minute, I could divorce my wife, quit the insurance business, try my hand at stand-up comedy. If I succeed, that's great. If I don't, hell, I can still kill myself. I know, again, it sounds odd, but that is the advantage that I have over normal people. Okay? Because a normal person who is at that juncture in their life, married, say, in miserable, job and miserable, they got a dream, they're not pursuing it. They think, well, I could get divorced, I could quit my job, I could pursue my dream. Here's where it breaks down for them. Oh man, but what if I failed? I would lose everything. They have to make a choice, they have to make a decision, and most people, probably wisely, select the devil they know versus the devil they don't. I had no choice. Picture this, I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, 10, 12-story drop to a beautiful deep lake. Coming up behind me is a brush fire, wind-driven. If I stay where I am, I'm going to die. If I jump, I still may die. However, I may hit just right and swim away. But in that scenario, is there really any choice? Do you really have to think about it? No, you just jump. Now, I'm not saying that normal people, by the way, this is the part of my personality, my dark passenger, with apologies to the Showtime series Dexter. Yeah. I know it looks a lot like Mark Harmon. It's way better looking than I am. This is what's been trying to kill me for as long as I can remember. That's that part of my personality. Yeah. So let's see, we did the lake, hold on. Lake, normal. Oh, yeah, sorry, Palm Pilot. Yeah, the only problem with this, I'm constantly downloading to the sink. Yeah. I'm not saying that normal people don't occasionally go off a cliff. You know these guys? Thelma and Louise, that is correct. Have you seen the movie? At the end of the movie, of course, they drive off the cliff. And there's no indication in the movie that either one of them has any sort of mental illness. They chose to go off the cliff. They could have put on the brakes, turned around, gone back the other way, but they chose to go off the cliff. Just an aside, I can't remember which comedian it is, but there's a comedian who says a joke like this. You know, men and women see that scene where they go off the cliff differently. Women are like, oh my God, I can't believe how far they had to go, the lengths they had to go to their personal liberation. Tragic. And guys are like, yeah, that's tragic. That was a classic 1966 Ford Thunderbird convertible. They couldn't rent a car and do this? Yeah. So occasionally, they go off the cliff. So suicide is a secret to my success. Now, a disclaimer. I'm not suggesting anybody choose the option of suicide as part of their plan for success. Just my plan. And for a long time, I believed it was only my plan. I believed, like the young woman that I spoke to at the college, that I was the only one who thought that way. Until I'm talking to a comedian friend of mine. We're talking about how we got started. She goes, do you want to hear the real story? I said, sure. She goes, it's dark. It's Disturbed. I go, honey, my middle name is Disturbed. She goes, okay, I'm working in Washington, D.C. Great job, good benefits. Hated every minute of it. The only joy I have all week long, by the way, she's depressed and having thoughts of suicide. The only joy that I had all day long, or all week long, was the 2 nights I went to the comedy club and did open mic night. Because that's where I thought I should be. That's what I thought I should be doing. And one day she said, I realized, see this coming? If I keep my job and don't pursue stand-up comedy, sooner or later, I'm going to kill myself. And I said, let me guess the rest. She goes, okay. And then you realize at that moment, you had nothing to lose. And you thought, I could quit my job, pursue stand-up comedy. If I succeed, great. If I fail, I can still kill myself. She goes, how do you know that? Know that, honey. I lived it. I knew at that moment that I was not alone. And since then, I've met a goodly number of entrepreneurs and entertainers who had the very same thought process. Recently, they've done 2 or 3 studies on entrepreneurs and mental health. And they've discovered in each study, a solid third of entrepreneurs are depressed and having thoughts of suicide. Now, the clinicians believe it's because of long hours, little sleep, and unmet expectations. That may be the case, but I will bet you there's a mathematically significant slice of that population. They are, in fact, entrepreneurs pursuing a dream because they were depressed and suicidal and came to the same juncture that my comedian friend and I came to. I got this life. It's not where I belong. I got this life where I do think I should be, what I should be doing. And if I stay here, I'm going to kill myself. What the heck? I can quit this, try this. If it doesn't work, I can still kill myself. There have been 2 high-profile examples recently. Kate Spade, died by suicide. She had underlying mental illness, bouts of depression, thoughts of suicide, self-medicated, often on drugs, maybe alcohol. But she ended up at Mademoiselle magazine. She started somewhere down the food chain, and not in the mail room, but somewhere down. And she worked her way all the way up to, does anybody know? She was the editor of the accessories section of the magazine. A job, some would say, to die for. I think that may have been the case. However, you guys know she started her own line of fashion. So I'm guessing she's at Mademoiselle. It's a great job, but she's thinking, this is not for me. I really am not on this earth to be reviewing everybody else's fashions. I need to be creating my own fashions. Depressed, thoughts of suicide, finally realizes if I stay at Mademoiselle and keep reviewing other people's fashions, sooner rather than later, I'm going to kill myself. What have I got to lose? Leave Mademoiselle, start my own fashion line. You know how it turned out. She ended up selling it to Neiman Marcus over time for tens of millions of dollars and then started another company. This guy as well, Anthony Bourdain. Yes, supposedly his love of food began when his folks took him to Paris when he was a youngster. When he got to be high school age, he worked in a bunch of restaurants. He loved working in restaurants. But like most upper middle class kids, went to school, went to college, got into Vassar, great school. He's been there 2 years. All the time he's at Vassar, by the way, he's working at 2 different restaurants. And that's where he's really happy. One of those restaurants, I saw him interviewed. He got a job as a dishwasher. He was happy being a dishwasher in a restaurant because he was in a restaurant. Now, it could have been because the busboy was going out and scoring him heroin and mushrooms and meth, but that's another story. Anyway, so I'm guessing he came to that same juncture. Vassar's a great school. This is a great major. I'm sure if when I graduate, I'll get a great job, but this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not culinary. And he sees what he should be doing is going to the Culinary Arts Institute, and realizes, if I stay here at Vassar, sooner or rather later, I'm going to kill myself. What have I got to lose? I'll drop out of school. I'll go to the Culinary Arts Institute. If I succeed, great. If I don't, you know the drill. I can just kill myself. Well, unfortunately, both Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain killed themselves. Now, when that happened, a lot of my normal friends Facebook messaged me, called me, emailed me. Yeah, I think they all got together and said, hey, let's ask Frank. He's suicidal. Somehow I have become the spokesperson for those who are suicidal. First question, I can't believe they wanted to die. First misconception. I believe most people who die by suicide do not want to die. I didn't want to die when I came that close. I simply wanted to end the pain. So the second question is, well, but they had everything. Who has everything? Fame, fortune, family. Who? Why kill yourself? Because, misconception number 2, oftentimes it's not situational. Sometimes it's situational, but oftentimes the suicide is not situational. It can be triggered by a situation. But I have been most depressed in my life when I was, at the best times in my life. I always worried and wondered, what's going to happen when I get this depressed and everything has gone to hell in a handbasket? And by the way, I found out. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, and the third thing is, so then why did they die by suicide? Why did they take their own lives? Here's what I think, given my experience. They grew tired of living. It's difficult for normal people to grasp the amount of energy it takes for somebody with mental illness to get out of bed every morning, paste on a smile, sound familiar? Put one foot in front of the other, walk through the world as if nothing is wrong until it's time when you can crawl back into bed, pull the covers over your head. Do you guys know there's a Greek character in mythology, Sisyphus? Do you know Sisyphus? Yeah, he did something wrong. He pissed off the gods. I can't remember. He gave humans fire or slept with Zeus's daughter or something. And I really don't think that's it. But his punishment, do you know this? Was to roll the rock up a hill every day. And right before it got to the top, it would roll back down. So every day he had to roll up the hill. Having a mental illness is like that. Every morning you wake up, there's a rock and a hill, and you've got to move the rock up the hill. Some days the rock is small and the hill's not so steep. Some days that rock is a boulder and the hill is Mount Everest. But there's always a rock, there's always a hill, and you've got to move it. My guess is Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, woke up one morning, couldn't move the rock. Check, please. Yep. I woke up one morning, couldn't move the rock. April 2010, 2 years into the recession. My comedy and speaking business had dropped off 80%, practically overnight. My wife and I were losing everything we worked for 25 years in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And I came close enough to ending my life that I know what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Yep. Spoiler alert, I didn't pull the trigger. A friend of mine saw me speak, came up afterwards. He goes, hey man, how come you didn't pull the trigger? I said, hey man, could you try to sound a little less disappointed? Yeah, people ask me, where is the funny in depression and suicide? It's right there. It's organic, it's in there. Here's why I did not. My wife, Wendy. Yep. Well, I had $1 million life insurance policy. So I was literally worth more financially to her dead than alive. Emotionally, different story, but financially, worth more dead than alive. However, I wasn't sure how long I'd had that policy. Yeah. So, do you know this? Every every life insurance policy has a suicide clause. You have to have the policy 24 months. You kill yourself in less than 24 months, pays nothing. After 24 months, pays in full. So, the rational part of my brain would not allow the irrational part of my brain to end my life and leave my wife brokenhearted and destitute. I had 2 months. So I had a conversation with myself. I said, I can wait 2 months until the policy's in force. And maybe things will get better in those 2 months, and I won't pull the trigger. But if they don't get better, I can still kill myself. So suicide in a strange way, the option of suicide, saved my life. In 2 months, things did get better. Bankruptcy went through, harassing phone calls stopped, my depression lifted a little bit, things got better. Woke up in the morning, I could move that rock. So here's the deal. Here's my parting thought to you. If you have a mental illness and you are in crisis, help is available. That's Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And for younger people who like to text, that's a Suicide Prevention text line, 741-741. If you are not in crisis, but you are living with a mental illness and you're struggling, see me at the break. Because as a member of my tribe, I will do my best to help you get the resources you need so that when you wake up in the morning, you can move that rock. Thanks very much.